Next stop everywhere.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Charles Skaggs, back in the TARDIS once again, only this time without my partner in time, Jesse Jackson. No, I didn't kill him. No, his body's not buried somewhere.
He's not in the compost heap somewhere.
Yeah, he's not in the compost heap somewhere. He's not, on the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Castorberus. If you're at all familiar with the news, you probably might be aware that it seems Dallas is having a little issue with their power.
It's kind of the entire state of Texas.
Yeah, it's kind of the entire... Yeah, because as it turns out, the entire state of Texas, or pretty much most of it, has its own grid, and they don't share with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So as a result, when their grid isn't able to keep up, especially during, one of those, a polar vortex, Arctic blasts that rip right through and dump a bunch of snow and 20-degree temperatures on a city that's really not built, or a state that's really not built for it, Wackiness ensues. And Jesse is now, being the head of a manager of a call center, is officially caught up in all this.
Yep.
So he's busy right now. He's not able to join us, but he did send some feedback, which I will read later in the podcast. So he's here with us in spirit, and hopefully will be listening to us. Otherwise, you're in big, big trouble, Mr. Jackson, if you don't. I'm just putting that out there. But thankfully, I'm joined by my temporary, at least, co-host, but also special guest companion, who's been joining us for the first two parts of the Trial of the Time Lord. So please, everybody, welcome back once again, Rachel Frend from the Five-ish Fangirls podcast and Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast. Yay!
Yay!
Yay! So welcome back, Rachel.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming back a third time to talk some more Colin Baker. I know we said the magic word, Colin Baker, so we hope you appeared. And sure enough, here you are.
Yeah.
And you got your Doctor Who shirt on, and you got your Jamie Dodgers, as I understand.
I do.
Nice. So very jealous of those. They look all kinds of nummy.
There is one store
Yeah.
in the Indianapolis area that I know of that carries these, and even then it's hit and miss on whether they've been picked clean or not. So if you find yourself in Indianapolis on the north side and in the Carmel area, there's a World Market.
Right.
And they will carry them when they're in stock.
That's good.
So.
That's good to know. I know that Who North America also has them, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's still they go quickly.
Yeah,
so,
they do. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I bought 2 packages.
Imagine that, Doctor Who fans buying them all up. Go figure, right?
Who knew?
Who knew? Who knows, eh? Who knows?
Yeah.
As I'm tapping the side of my nose. So here at episode 219, getting up there, we are discussing, of course, Terror of the Vervoids, the third serial from Doctor Who Season 23 from 1986, a.k.a. parts 9 through 12 of The Trial of the Time Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Starring, of course, Colin Baker as the Sixth Doctor, and introducing, although not really introducing, as it turns out, Bonnie Langford as Melanie Mel Bush.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably one of the things we'll talk about when we talk about Mel, is that she doesn't get a proper companion introduction. She just kind of shows up as the Doctor's flash forwarding into his own future.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely a departure. This was written by Pip and Jane Baker, who I understand is probably Rachel's favorite writers.
Yes, because they wrote one of my
For the Colin Baker era?
because they wrote one of my absolute favorite stories of all time, Mark of the Rani.
Ah. Yeah, we covered that one. We didn't have you on that one, but since you brought it up, I take it you're really fond of that story.
Oh, yes. Yes, I love Mark of the Ronnie. And even now to this day, when people are like, New Who, what do you want? I'm like, bring back the Ronnie, bring back the Ronnie. That is like my fandom flag. I have
Right.
planted it firmly on this hill that I'm willing to die on. Bring back the Ronnie on TV. I mean, she's been in Big Finish.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you've listened to the Big Finish audios where she was brought back.
I have not yet, no.
Okay. Yeah, there's a good one called the Ronnie Elite that I think you would really enjoy.
Yeah. My Big Finish to listen pile is
Yeah.
bigger on the inside.
Yeah, I've got a stack about that big. But you can't see it out there in podcast land, but I'm holding about almost 3/4 of a foot high. Yeah. That's my stack that I'd go through. Yeah. Pippa Jane Baker, in addition to the Mark of the Ronnie, also wrote The Ultimate Foe, which we'll talk about next week, to kind of help wrap things up because of, sadly, the death of Robert Holmes. They pitched in. And they also wrote Sylvester McCoy's first story, Time in the Ronnie, which was, of course, was the story that brought the Ronnie back and made her sort of indirectly responsible for the Doctor's regeneration.
Yeah.
By kind of knocking his TARDIS around and knocking him off his exercise bike into the console.
Yeah. She likes to cause havoc wherever she goes. Yes. So
leave the girl. It's the man I want.
Yeah.
It's one of my all-time favorite Ronnie quotes. All right. So guest cast, we have Michael Jaston returning as the Valeyard. Linda Bellingham as the Inquisitor once again. Honor Blackman as Professor Sarah Lasky. And as a big James Bond geek, I would be remiss in, that she was obviously played Pussy Galore in Goldfinger, the Sean Connery film from 1964, I believe. And she was also in a Big Finish audio. She played Queen Anahita in a Fifth Doctor Big Finish audio, The Children of Seth, which was one of the unproduced stories from Peter Davison's run that was adapted by Big Finish. She's also notable to a lot of British fans and American fans that follow British TV as Kathy Gale on the British Avengers series. And she was also in the movie Bridget Jones's Diary, which I was not aware of until I started doing research today. So I thought that was kind of interesting because I don't remember seeing her. So I'm going to have to go back and check that out. I have seen the movie. I just don't remember seeing her in it. We had Michael Craig as Commodore Travers, Dennis Hawthorne as Security Officer Rudge, and he's notable maybe to Gwyneth Paltrow fans as he was in the 1996 version of Emma. Not the more recent version starring Anna Taylor-Joy. My wife Lori is kind of a Jane Austen geek, so she would appreciate that.
I've never gone down that rabbit hole, so.
Really?
No.
That's okay. Malcolm Tierney plays Doland, and he played the dual characters Gantha and Myaxa in a Fifth Doctor Big Finish audio, 1001 Nights. And he was also in the movie Braveheart with Mel Gibson, and the 1997 film version of The Saint with Val Kilmer. Have you ever seen those?
It's been a long time since I've seen Braveheart.
Yeah.
But I know it will be coming out because that did win Best Picture, right?
Yes, it did. I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be
you'll be covering.
I'll be rewatching it in a couple of years.
If the planet's still with us in 2 years, you'll get there.
Yep.
We also had David Allister playing Bruckner. He played the character Stimson in a Tom Baker story, The Leisure Hive. That was the first one from Tom Baker's final season. And we had Arthur Hewlett as Kimber, and we had previously seen him. John Takis and I talked about this not too long ago when we talked State of Decay, because he played the character Kalmar. Here he's playing Kimber. He played Kalmar in that one. So apparently he's got a fondness for characters starting with the letter K that are only 6 letters and ending in R, I guess. And last, but certainly not least, we have Yolande Palfrey as Janet, the sort of hostess, stewardess that pretty much has the run of Hyperion 3 in this story. I think, if I recall correctly, and I probably should bring this up during trivia, the character was named after Janet Fielding, played Tegan because, hey, Tegan was a stewardess.
Yeah.
So a little nod to, I think, Janet Fielding. So before we get into trivia, Rachel, what were your general thoughts on this one? Where does it rank as far as this season? Is it probably the favorite or the not quite as favorite, or?
It's not my favorite. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's at the bottom either.
Okay.
I mean, I think I like this one slightly better than
Mind Warp?
the other two.
Yeah.
But they're all really close.
Okay.
So
So the Ultimate Foe is your favorite from this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's mine too. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's because the overall plot device for this is interesting because at this point, the Doctor, it's his turn to mount his defense after the Valeyard has had his moments. And so the Doctor has decided to present something that hasn't even actually happened to him yet.
Because only Time Lords could do that, right? They could go forward into their own timeline. Now, apparently there's no law against spoiling the Doctor's timeline.
Yeah, because
What happened to that?
The general idea is that if the Doctor encounters something out of time, he'll just forget it.
His memory will be, erased or what have you.
Until the timelines sync back up again.
Okay.
So, because we saw that in Day of the Doctor too, where the War Doctor is like, I'm not going to remember this.
That's a great point.
And he's like, no, you won't. He'll remember it once he becomes the 10th Doctor, and then again he'll remember what happened to him when he becomes the 11th Doctor.
Right.
So, but yeah, so that's a general idea: is anytime the Doctor gets out of the time stream, that they'll just generally forget it until it actually happens.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting since you brought that up. So now I'm wondering, since you brought up the Day of the Doctor, if the 10th Doctor would, obviously remember the War Doctor parts because he was the War Doctor before becoming the 10th, but he wouldn't know the 11th because he hasn't become the 11th yet. So is there like a blank spot in his memory where the 11th Doctor is?
No, because that memory hasn't been created yet.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So he doesn't have access to that yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a good way to look at it. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, it's like that bookshelf has not been installed yet.
So as far as the plot for this one, essentially it's a whodunit. Kind of.
This is an Agatha Christie type of
in space
murder mystery. Yeah.
Right. What did you
think?
think?
Under siege in this case.
Do you like
under siege?
Do you like the premise for this one?
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's pretty, standard fare.
Yeah.
If you've ever seen Murder on the Orient Express, one of the 5 million adaptations of it, or anything else Agatha Christie-esque.
Yes.
It's pretty standard fare. But it has some fun and interesting.
Obviously, with a Doctor Who twist.
Premise. Yeah, with the Doctor Who elements to it. We've got killer plants in space.
Right.
But they're not just plants. I mean, they're
living beings.
Yeah. They're a fully evolved species of their own that can think and communicate and make decisions and go berserk because they're plants and animals eat plants and they don't want to get eaten. So therefore all animal life it's like
kill or be killed, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like vegans gone rogue.
Right. Exactly. So keep that in mind the next time you're going on that vegan diet.
Yeah.
It might come back to literally bite you.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yep.
All right. Trivia. So this story segment for Terror of the Vervoids was originally intended to be based on a story outline that featured Mel called Paradise 5 that was written by Peter J. Hammond, the creator of the cult British sci-fi series Sapphire and Steel. It's the one that co-starred Joanna Lumley, if I recall correctly, from Absolutely Fabulous. And apparently script editor Eric Saward liked this script, but of course John Nathan Turner rejected it and turned to Pip and Jane Baker to write the third segment instead. But thankfully, Paradise 5 was later adapted by Big Finish in 2010, and in that version, they replaced Mel with Perry. So kind of like, creating lost stories still set during Perry's era on the show. And John Nathan Turner was not too happy with the Vervoids' appearance because he thought they looked essentially like labia.
Yeah, they're
And if you don't know what that is, time to go back to your high school health class and look that up on the internet.
let's just say, I mean, overall, it's a really good design.
Right.
The costumes are really, really cool. There's some really, I mean, they're very detailed. They definitely took the time to create really good costumes as opposed to
the arms, just leaves and
as opposed
body,
to some other creatures that we've seen that look like they're just wrapped in
saran wrap, bubble wrap,
foil. But I think these are creatures that, well, if you know anything about art, Georgia O'Keeffe would appreciate, I think.
Nice reference. That's a good reference there. I like that.
And if you don't get that reference, just Google Georgia O'Keeffe's artwork.
See, who says we're not educational? We're teaching you about human anatomy, and we're also teaching you about art history. So
yes, right. Yep.
So see, we're worthwhile. We can do things. We're smart, not like everybody says. So this one, like we talked about, was designed to be a typical Agatha Christie murder mystery set on a space liner. And if it wasn't that obvious enough, there's actually a shot of Professor Lasky reading a copy of Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express.
Yep.
So just to make it even more obvious, more on the nose, right? Something I thought was interesting is that at the end of the first episode, part 9 of The Trial of the Time Lord, the pitch that Bonnie Langford, screams at the end of the cliffhanger was supposedly made on purpose to match that of the closing theme Sting, where they go, ooh, and they cut to the credits.
So it would blend seamlessly.
So, the scream just flows right into, that Sting.
Yep.
So it's an interesting idea, but, and that's one of the things I want to talk about when we get to Mel. She screams way too much in this story. And I kind of noticed she also screams way too much in Time of the Ronnie. Now, what are the two what's the common factor here? Pip and Jane Baker. I'm just saying. They really like to make Bonnie Langford scream, and I wish they wouldn't do that so much. But, oh well. Can't go back and rewrite history. Not one line.
Yeah.
As it turns out. So, speaking of Pip and Jane Baker, they claim that the production team, while they were making the serial, they thought that Janet was the killer because she had the best access on the ship. She could go just about anywhere. And according to Jane Baker, there apparently was a betting group on who was the murderer.
Yep.
Because apparently they didn't even, the production crew didn't know. So I thought that's kind of interesting.
I'm assuming they weren't betting on their own story.
Right. I would assume the actors knew because they had access to the script, unless they only got it in chunks for their character.
Maybe.
But I think that's kind of interesting. So thought I'd mention it. Do you have any other trivia that I didn't mention?
Well, you mentioned the Professor Lasky.
Mm-hmm.
The Paradise 5, you mentioned that.
Right.
There was another story that had been submitted that this replaced called Attack from the Mind, that was supposed to be set on the planet Penelope, where the natives...
That sounds like an adorable planet.
Yeah, it's home to a native... The natives are apparently extremely beautiful, but weak, and they're suffering attacks from these rat-like creatures they were originally called Freds, and then they later renamed them Trikes. But it turns out that actually the natives are driving the Freds/Trikes insane using hallucinations and feeding off of the madness.
Interesting.
Yes.
I find that really interesting because I actually have a plant named Fred.
Yeah.
it's a rhododendron.
They were rejected for being listless.
Yeah. So that's so that's cool.
Yeah. But apparently Sayward did not care for the premise, so it got rejected. What's interesting is if you look at the credits for this, particular series, there is no script editor credit because at this point Sayward had resigned.
Right.
And actually John Nathan Turner worked as the script editor, but they did not give him credit for it.
I don't think they could, because if I remember the studio, that one of the reasons that they couldn't have the showrunner wasn't allowed to be also the script editor, if I recall correctly.
Makes sense.
Officially, anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as in his head he knew he did it, I guess that's all that matters.
Because if I recall correctly, there was a big deal during the Jon Pertwee era that Barry Letts, the showrunner at the time, couldn't be listed on one of the scripts, so they had to come up with this Guy Leopold pseudonym.
Yeah.
Because that's how crazy it was back then at the BBC.
Yeah.
All right. Nowadays, it's like you obviously have showrunners who are also, writers for the series.
Yeah.
You almost expect it over here in the States, anyway.
Yeah. Nowadays, we watch Doctor Who, and it's like, written by Chris Chibnall, and we don't think anything of it. So.
No, not at all. But like I said, that's how it was back in the weird old days of the BBC.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to share?
Nope, that's it.
All right. We're going to dive in then. We'll dive into our topics. We have 4 of them this time, although the 4th one should be pretty quick.
Vitamin A, B, C, and D?
Yeah, exactly. Vitamin. I like what you did there. Nice. Yes. Yeah, they did the nice British pronunciation of vitamin. They pronounce it vitamin. Yeah. A vitamin pill. Yes.
Yep.
So, topic number 1, carrot juice. As Colin Baker moans in this episode. And it's not the carrot juice. That comes later.
Oh,
this is the first time. So,
at least he's not wearing a carrot on his lapel.
Right.
He's not wearing said vegetable, unlike his predecessor.
Okay, well, the decorative vegetables are cool. That's true. So, we'll talk about, obviously, the 6th Doctor, and let's also talk about Mel, who, like I said, doesn't get a traditional companion introduction. We just kind of, because the Doctor's presenting evidence from his future, it just happens to be the future where Mel is already traveling with him.
Mm-hmm.
So we just kind of pick up, if you're like the Doctor pulled out his DVD set and kind of skipped ahead a few episodes to this part in his timeline.
Yep.
So what did you think of Colin in this particular story and his interaction with Bonnie Langford?
For it being the first time we're meeting Mel,
right?
I think they did a really good job of just kind of jumping into it. It feels like they've been hanging out and traveling together for a while at this point. Which
not as contentious.
Yeah, which I think really, really helps. And I kind of understand why they did not make this Mel's introduction episode, because that just would have ruined the flow of everything, to have to introduce a character, who is she, where is she from, what did she do before she met the Doctor, did she have a job, or, is she a student like Perry or stuff?
That's usually the formula, right? That we get a little bit of background of the, companion to be, and see what their life is, and to right before they get brought into the Doctor's insanity of his whole timey-wimey, spacey-wacy kind of thing. Yeah.
So this we can just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Right into
so you liked it.
And everything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I get it. I think Stephen Moffat would have really appreciated this type of introduction.
Yeah, probably.
Not going in chronological order.
Yeah. But, and that's it too. It's like, we're meeting a character that already knows the Doctor. It's like, again, there's kind of setting a precedent for in the future with someone like River Song.
That's a good point. What did you make of Bonnie Langford? Because I thought that she was, she's obviously right from the start. There was a definite attempt to contrast her from Perry, make her a completely different character.
Yeah, and they definitely do. Perry had always been kind of timid and, unsure of herself. Mel obviously has asserted herself as not only the doctor's companion, but the doctor's friend and apparently fitness coach.
Yes.
Because, you'd have to have...
Physical trainer, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to have a kind of a set on you to like, be like, doctor, get on that exercise bike now. And stand there with the stopwatch and, be like, go at it and drink this carrot juice. Not everybody could do that, other than maybe River.
Yeah. I kind of would like to, I mean, obviously we never get to see that, but, I'd love to see some of the reactions some of the other doctors would have to Mel if they tried to make them do that.
Yeah.
Like especially like Capaldi's doctor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I can only imagine the way he would react to Mel trying to force him to do that.
Yeah. So,
of course, he did have Clara kind of doing the same thing. So
that's true too.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But,
So at this point, the doctor, after everything that's happened with Perry, needs probably someone that can stand up to him in his brashness and everything. So.
Oh, okay. So because the doctor's kind of a type A personality, that his companion would also need to be a type A.
Yeah.
To hold their own with him.
Yeah, I always enjoy companions that can hold their own against the doctor, because no matter which doctor we're talking about, the doctor's personality is always larger than life.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like the companions could be steamrolled over because the doctor's ego, no matter the incarnation, sometimes dominates.
Yeah.
Unless you don't stand up for yourself. Like I'm thinking of right off the bat, Amy Pond.
Yes. Another feisty redhead.
Yeah, go figure, right? Something about those redheads.
Maybe that's why the doctor wants to be ginger.
There you go. So he figures, well, maybe I can hold my own with the gingers, perhaps.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I love the I really enjoy the chemistry between Colin Baker and Bonnie Langford. I agree with your point that they do seem to kind of have a settled in approach to each other. That they seem very familiar with one another by this point, because we're kind of jumping ahead. We're not covering the introduction, and as a result, I think it works, and it's obviously, like I said, it's a complete contrast to Perry and the Doctor, because a lot of the times they were always, the Doctor would just be so upset with her. But with Mel, he's just more kind of annoyed that she's making him do these things, as far as, working out and trying to, shed a couple pounds there.
Yeah. Which, I don't think anybody wants it directly pointed out that maybe they're a little overweight. And
right.
Maybe could have a slightly healthier lifestyle. So,
yeah.
Been there, done that.
Which obviously they did because, since the hiatus that happened between season 22 and 23, that Colin Baker had put on a few pounds. And
yeah, I call those his parental pounds, because he and his wife had a baby.
Oh, okay.
Right before the hiatus, so he essentially got to have 18 months of parental leave.
Right.
To be with his newborn daughter, and I just it's one of those things where you're a parent to a newborn. Not that I've ever been there, but from what I understand,
right.
You're lucky if you get sleep and a shower and a square meal. So you just kind of sleep when you can, shower when you can, and eat whatever you can get your hands on.
Right. Because you're so busy otherwise.
Yeah. Because you're so busy. So I liken it to that. So. Colin's never, his entire run as the Doctor. I mean, Colin, especially compared to some of the other Doctors, has never been svelte or muscular, or
No.
he's not built like a David Tennant or a Peter Capaldi. He's not
a matchstick man.
No, he's definitely not. But I like him for that, especially Colin now.
Yeah.
Even he gives very good hugs. He's a very good cuddler.
Oh, is he a hugger?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
See,
Colin and I have had some cuddles. So.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Tell me more.
Well, the first time he was trying to console me,
Mm-hmm.
because it was my first time meeting him, and I absolutely just like fangirled out and lost it.
Right.
So he was trying to console me, and then a couple of years later at a different convention, and we were waiting in line for a professional photo, and the gals in front of us had on, I think, Ninth Doctor shirts.
Okay.
And he kind of took offense
That's funny.
because it wasn't his face that was on their shirts.
Right.
He said it was Chris, and he said something.
I'm still looking for a good Sixth Doctor shirt. I need one.
Yeah. It's not by his fault. It's the manufacturers out there.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of Sixth Doctor merchandise out there.
No.
But he said something, and it was our turn next, and I said something along the lines of, well, that's okay, because you're my doctor. And he's like, oh, he was like, oh, that's so great. So then, the photo of us, he's got his arm around me, squeezing really, really tight.
Yeah.
And then my husband is on the other side, just kind of third wheeling.
So it's kind of more that you kind of shoved him off to the sides, like, I'm going to be with Colin for a while.
Yeah, it's like I have three professional photos of me and Colin.
Yeah.
And 2 out of the 3, he's got his arm around me, and we're just having a nice cuddle.
That's funny. That's good. Well, I'm glad he was so friendly. That's good to know. Cause
yeah,
I know Jesse's met him, and you've obviously met him. So I'm jealous because I've never had the fortune to meet Colin Baker yet.
Yeah, no, he's a
hopefully I will.
Super sweet guy, and just is a great ambassador for the program.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is great considering what happened to him during his run. He could easily have a chip on his shoulder, and he does not.
Yeah, he could have turned out to be another Eccleston, considering the way things turned out. Yeah. So it's because he was obviously, we know that Colin Baker wanted to have the longest run.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to rival Tom Baker's run, but sadly didn't get the chance.
Yeah.
And but thankfully he's gone on to do Big Finish, and I think that went such a long way to redeem his doctor, for lack of a better word,
for a lot of people,
for a lot of fans that may have been turned off by what they saw on television.
Yeah, for me it's just bonus.
Right.
It's just bonus content.
You're just like, yay, more Sixth Doctor stuff, hooray! Yep. Happy birthday to me.
Yep.
Which, now that I mention it, yeah, tomorrow is Rachel's birthday, everybody. So, everybody wish her happy birthday.
Yeah. I'm going to be younger than the doctor. We'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Well, we won't pry. If it makes you feel any better, my dad just had his birthday yesterday, and he turned 86. So.
Nice.
Yeah. So he doesn't like to talk about his age either, but that's okay.
Yeah. Half the time I am like the doctor, and I can't remember how old I am. So
there you go. Just say I don't remember. That's it. It works out really good, and you don't have to answer.
Yep.
All right. So the Sixth Doctor and Mel, we talked about their interaction, their introduction. That bit on the bicycle. Where the exercise cycle,
mm-hmm.
where Colin's just pumping away to Mel's horrible music.
Yeah.
And I don't know, she has the worst taste in workout music. I'm sorry, Mel. You're great, but yeah, it's not good. And once they finish with the, Mel goes off.
I missed that. Sorry.
That's okay.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, I know. We're kind of the connection's being affected here. So Skype shakes fist.
Yeah.
So when Mel goes off out into the other room, and there's that great moment where they're counting together. And
he stops, but he's still counting.
Yeah, he's still counting, and it just kind of pauses there while she's out of the room. And then once she comes back into the room, he's pumping away again. I thought that was a funny little bit. Yeah, I just thought it was good. All right. So when they get on the ship, the Hyperion 3, they answer a distress call, and it's there that the they find out that the Doctor meets an old friend of his, Commodore Travers, who we'll talk about here shortly. But the Doctor feels that his I guess he's concerned because he doesn't know who. I guess there's this concern that nobody knows who did the Mayday call that requested them.
Mm-hmm.
And that gets him involved in this mystery as they try to figure out what's going on. The Doctor gets convinced that whoever sent the message wants him on board. And from there, they kind of get embroiled in this murder mystery. So what did you make of the Doctor as kind of I don't want to say an amateur sleuth, considering he's obviously done this before. But,
Yeah.
but if you don't believe me, go watch the Talents of Wang Chiang.
Yeah.
During Tom Baker's
And he'll
era.
do it again.
And he'll do it again, exactly, and say the Unicorn and the Wasp. But what did you make of this Doctor, this incarnation's version of being a detective?
I don't know if this Doctor's necessarily cut out for it.
Mm-hmm.
I think in general, being a detective requires a little bit of nuance.
Yeah. That's not really
and
his
subtlety
bag, is it?
that this Doctor does not have.
No. Or tact and finesse, perhaps? Yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, that too. Finesse he definitely has, but I don't think he applies it necessarily the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Done, so.
But I thought it was interesting. I thought it was a nice little departure from what we'd seen before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it definitely helps that he has Mel to do some of the more, what's the word I'm looking for?
Investigation? Or...
Yeah, the more sneaking around,
Right.
She'll fit inside an air vent.
Right, she's so tiny.
Yes.
Right, you can, she will get, she won't get like, in there like Bruce Willis and get, have to force her way through.
Yeah.
She can go right through the grate. She's so tiny.
Yeah.
But, and the Doctor can just lift her up with one hand and put her up in the vent.
Yeah. This is why Bonnie played Peter Pan at one point.
Yes, she did. There's those great promo photos, now that I'm thinking about it. You've probably seen them where Colin has his beard and they've kind of got them both on harnesses with a starry background. Have you seen those photos?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about, where Bonnie Langford has this really short pixie cut, and
Yeah.
Got it. So Mel, since we're talking about her, I like the fact that like I said right off the bat, she's a contrast to Perry. She deliberately inserts herself into this mystery.
Mm-hmm.
She's very eager compared to Perry. And as a result, she's prone to getting in trouble, but in a completely different way than Perry.
Yeah.
Perry was reluctant, but Mel is just, she's very forthright, very like, okay, come on, Doctor, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of leading him around almost through this mystery.
Yeah. Perry is constantly ready to go back to the TARDIS and get the hell out of Dodge, and Mel is just like, Doctor, you're too slow. I'm going to go, check this room, and, meanwhile the Doctor's still in the lobby lounge area.
Right.
Producing bouquets of fake flowers to the into the receptionist.
You mean doing his magic tricks?
Yes. I use that gif so much.
Right. I'm sure a lot of people do. Yeah, but it's a fun one. It's like it's a good thing you just happen to have those up his sleeve,
Yeah.
For just such an occasion.
Yes.
The now I'm trying to think. Mel they obviously make a point of showing like how like a fitness buff Mel is.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously by showing, her trying to get the doctor to lose weight. And then they made a point of it having a gymnasium scene. Where
Well,
Mel
when
goes
you're
down
when you're on a cruise ship,
right.
that's usually one of the amenities that they always try to point out is most cruise ships have some sort of spa/fitness facilities on board. This is supposed to be kind of a nicer
Luxury. Yeah.
luxury cruise type thing. So
yeah, you would think the doctor would have been looking for the buffet table.
Yes. That's usually me on most cruises most of the time, but
that's most people on cruises.
Yeah, but I have been known to try to get some exercise in to help counteract all the buffets.
So you don't feel so guilty. Okay, I'm gonna pig out, but I'm gonna go work out later so I can feel better about myself.
Exactly.
Got it. Yeah. But I just thought it was funny. And then they had her go down there, and she's got the old school '80s Walkman headphones, which I thought was funny. And those take me back. Yeah. And again, she's listening to the absolute worst workout music.
Yeah. Royalty free.
Yeah, I know.
Composition.
Right, exactly. It's like, you couldn't. I mean, you've had songs on there before. I don't know why you couldn't do another one, but okay.
Richard Simmons had the market on Sweatin' to the Oldies.
Right. Is that it?
Yes.
That's funny. All right. So anything else about the Sixth Doctor and Mel?
No. Well, I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
I didn't want to shortchange you on your doctor because I didn't want to incur your wrath.
Yeah, no, we'll get more into their relationship with the Ultimate Foe. So
right,
because Mel does play a big part.
Yes, she does. That's a good point. Yeah, well, that's something we'll talk about next week. So stay tuned for that, guys.
Mm-hmm.
All right, topic number 2, a weak man gone rogue. And this I want to talk about Commodore Travers and Security Officer Rudge, who, as it turns out, is kind of got his own retirement plan.
Yeah.
And it's not the most legal retirement plan, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Because he ends up hijacking the ship with the help of a couple of Megarians.
He really should have gone more white collar and maybe a Ponzi scheme or something.
Right. So Commodore Travers, we're told, is someone who's met the doctor before. When, we don't know. Because it's one of those like, oh yeah, I've met the doctor before, but okay, which story?
Yeah, they retroactively do it. It's in Big Finish.
Yeah, there you go. It's in Big Finish, so it counts, right? So
yeah. It's Instruments of Darkness.
Oh, is he really in there? I need to check that out then.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that's technically his first appearance.
Or maybe that's not Big Finish. No, it's a novel.
Oh, is it a novel form?
My bad.
Ooh.
Nope, it is a novel written by Gary Russell.
Interesting.
But it's a Sixth Doctor, Mel, and Evelyn.
Ooh, an Evelyn novel?
Yes.
I didn't really. Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
I'll have to check that out now because I really liked Evelyn in Big Finish.
Yep.
Thought she was a great companion for Colin Baker's Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So Commodore Travers is not happy to see the Doctor on board because since he's met the Doctor, he knows that whenever the Doctor shows up, things go sideways. Yeah. He's just here trying to run his ship, do this, like a whatever run that he's done like probably 5,000 times before.
Yep.
And the Doctor shows up and, he knows that something bad is about to happen. And sure enough, being Doctor Who, it does.
Yes. In this case, bodies start dropping like flies.
Yes, they do on a pretty regular basis throughout this story. And the Doctor and Mel especially try to volunteer to help with the investigation. Travers is a little reluctant, especially with his security officer, Rudge, going like, hey, that's kind of like my job.
Mm-hmm.
But as it turns out, we kind of find out why Rudge doesn't want the Doctor involved.
Yeah.
Because that kind of like ultimately exposes his plans for what he wants to do.
Yeah.
So were you surprised by Rudge's little reveal of, essentially trying to, what he refers to as securing a more comfortable retirement?
Yeah.
By
Not
getting a hold of these like rare metals that are in the vault?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily. Again, with this whole, kind of murder mystery type thing, you almost expect someone to, find out that someone is on the wrong side of the law,
Yes,
I guess.
Right.
And something like this, with a kind of your base under siege, that someone who works there is probably not who they appear to be, not the most loyal employee, as it were.
Yeah, but it's nothing to really do with the Vervoids at all.
No.
He just happens to be kind of caught up in it.
Yeah. His whole thing was he just wanted to hijack the ship, steal this like rare mineral that's on board that's being transferred to Earth, and use that to retire, essentially. So apparently he did not max out his 401k.
Space 401k, yeah.
Yeah.
But
maybe those don't exist in the year 2986. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah, maybe. That's probably that whole market just crashed. Because of Syl, probably.
Probably.
So, yeah, Rudge, he's not happy with to have the Doctor around. He makes a point, once the truth comes out, that he reveals that, well, this is going to be my last journey. So, this is going to be it. I was going to just rob you guys and be done with it. And then, this whole thing with the Vervoids just happens to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But while he's being confronted about what he's doing, some unknown assailant ends up killing the Mogarians. So essentially his hijack plans fall by the wayside.
Mm-hmm.
And they even point it out to him and show the dead Morgarians, and they pull off their face masks. And by that point, he just kind of like, I'm going to get out of here. See ya, bye. And takes off and then runs into the Vervoids, who pretty much are like everywhere, it seems, by this point. And you're dead.
Yeah.
And he gets killed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, you're not a plant, so...
Yeah, exactly. You're like, we're not playing favorites. We just kill anybody. And sure enough, they do.
Yeah.
So do you like these characters at all? Did you think they brought something to the story, or did you think it was just kind of like an unnecessary complication?
I don't know if it was... I mean, you can look at it either way. I think you could make a case for both. I mean, the establishing that this mineral on board is worth something, and you've got the you got this guy that thinks apparently he's going to be able to use it to retire on,
right?
But then you've got these kind of almost a predecessor to the Ood. It seems like those Mogarians that have these these little things they got to turn on to be able to speak.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, like they're communication devices. Yeah.
Yeah, the communication device.
Which actually becomes important to one of the Doctor's court proceedings. Yeah, court proceedings, because he identifies someone impersonating a Mogarian.
Yeah.
By the fact that he started speaking English without turning on his communicator.
Yeah. But they're I don't know why they're on board.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's
because I think
because the mineral comes from their planet, so maybe they needed to have representatives from that planet to go with them. Yet these particular ones feel that they're home planet is being decimated by mining for this mineral.
Right.
So it's like they have an agenda too.
Yeah. So, but presumably they want the money because they are getting probably paid.
Right.
By Rudge.
And some of them may feel that way, but it just so happens that the ones that they have on board feel that, I guess, what they're getting paid is not sufficient.
Yeah, because I got to figure they were plants not plants like Vervoid plants, but planted there by Rudge to help him with the hijack.
Yeah, maybe.
From the get-go. I don't think it was just, oh, hey, Megarians, let's talk, and then why don't you help me hijack this ship? I'm kind of wondering if they were in on it from the beginning.
Yeah, maybe.
Because remember there was that scene where, they the Megarians pull Rudge over to the side and say, hey, let's talk, and then they kind of cut to a different scene, if I recall correctly.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, but they don't really flesh that out.
No, they don't.
As much as I think they could have.
Yeah, it just kind of got glossed over, but probably because they didn't want to reveal that Rudge was going to hijack the ship yet.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. All right. Anything else about these characters?
No.
Okay.
I mean, they're crew, so,
Yeah, exactly. I'm guessing you don't have that much to talk about Janet, so I didn't include her, but she doesn't really do a whole lot, apart from drop trays, apparently.
Yeah.
Or get kicked out of cabins. All right, so topic number 3, put them on the compost heap. So this is obviously Professor Lasky, and let's talk about Doland and Bruckner, her assistants, and let's talk about the Vervoids, because as we learn, they've been kind of, for lack of a better word, cultivating these Vervoids. This has all been part of this big science experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Each of them seems to have a different reason for this, especially Doland, who we find out is the murderer in this. And, but obviously this is an experiment that went horribly, horribly awry.
Yeah.
Because as it turns out, the plants don't get along with human or, animals, as we're told. So any, animal-based life form, they don't get along with. And they basically, kind of like the Daleks, they just want to exterminate.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you make of Professor Lasky, Doland, and Bruckner and their little secret experiments and not really coming forth with what they're up to?
To each individually to figure out what exactly they're up to, because I think Lasky, the least, she's just dangerous out of sheer just, I liken it to, the Jurassic Park, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Oh, that's a good point.
Type of experimentation.
Good comparison, yeah.
Because, she's a legitimate scientist. She's a dermatologist.
Yeah.
Which, and she's just trying to see if she can come up with a new plant species. So she's all,
so Lasky's all about the science.
Yeah, she's all about the science, and it just gets way out of control when it turns out that her new species of plants is sentient.
Yeah.
And, is capable of killing stuff. But, and then you've got Bruckner, who is...
He's essentially the guy who kind of sees the danger here. And he starts he starts freaking the hell out about it.
Yeah, so he's like, okay, well, this is getting out of control. I need to stop this, whether it's out of self-preservation or, he feels some
responsibility,
guilt, because he was part of it, or if he's trying to help save Lasky's, reputation or whatever. But
because he's like burning notes and trying, throwing away stuff and trashing equipment, and
he tries to steer the ship into a freaking black hole.
Right. Well, that's because he realizes what the Vervoids, the threat that they pose. Because if they do get to Earth, they could essentially take it over.
Yeah,
So
they'd be an invasive species.
But he kind of goes a little bit extreme with his way of dealing with that.
Yeah, because I guess in his mind, it's worth killing body on the ship if it kills the Vervoids.
Yeah. So it's almost like he got a bad of some really bad cocaine, got really paranoid, and just like went off and said, "Okay, they're all gonna, we're gonna die anyway, so I might as well take them with us."
Yeah. But then Dolan, I think, is the worst out of the three, because he had no intention of, he wasn't in this for the science, for the sake of the science. He saw the Vervoids as a way to make money.
Right. Because he realized that he could turn the Vervoids into slaves.
Yeah.
Like, hey, there's all this human labor that they could do, and I'm sure people would pay a pretty penny for these.
Yeah.
So he sees them as almost like a business opportunity, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. So, they're all people that have done bad things in the name of science, but for different motivations. So.
Well, what gets me is that, on top of all this, we find out, like about halfway in, or at the very end of the second episode, I believe, that they've been keeping this woman named Ruth Baxter, one of their assistants, kind of like in this like hyperbaric chamber or whatever, where she's essentially turning into a Vervoid because she got some pollen or whatever mixed in, into a scratch on her thumb. And as a result, she's mutating into a Vervoid. And they're kind of keeping this under wraps.
Yeah.
They're being very secretive about who comes in and out of that room. They won't let anybody in. The doctor, wants to get in to see what's going on. They won't let him until he comes up with a way to kind of sneak his way in with Mel later on so that Mel can scream.
Yeah.
And
in Mel's defense, she is pretty horrific looking.
Yeah, I agree. But it seems like, okay, once we find out that she's there, the only resolution is that the Vervoids come and kill her.
Yeah, because she's not one of them.
Right. Exactly. She's kind of like,
she's still too human.
Yeah, she's still too human. But I kind of felt bad as like, okay, so essentially they're keeping this woman almost prisoner, hiding her condition.
Yeah.
And then, once the truth comes out, she ends up getting killed by the Vervoids.
Yeah.
So sucks to be you, I guess, Ruth Baxter.
Not a bad part to play, though, because it's like, oh, you're just going to lay in this thing.
Yeah. I'm sure she didn't have to work very hard, the actress.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but probably the hardest part was probably getting the facial makeup put on, but
yeah,
the bald cap. But
yeah.
It's probably left over from Perry.
Yeah. Probably.
We recycled that bald cap for her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, these are very ethically challenged scientists, needless to say.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Lasky,
yeah,
because Lasky, she because she's this pure scientist, she seems to think, that she can reason with her Vervoids. Like, oh hey, they'll be cool. I'll just talk to them, and it'll all be good. They'll listen to reason. And, like not 30 seconds later, she's on the compost heap.
Yeah. Her and Victor Frankenstein could have a discussion.
So you think she was a bit of a mad scientist? A little bit?
I mean, I don't know if she was necessarily mad, but I think it was just it got out of control, and she thought she could fix it.
Yeah.
And turns out she was wrong.
So you think she's more of a victim of her own arrogance?
I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, and unfortunately, they decide, or they realize that the only way to take out the Vervoids is by using that rare metal that Rudge wanted, the Vianesium, which just so happens to kind of like act like magnesium on Earth, and can essentially accelerate the Vervoid's life cycle toward its natural end.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially there's like bang, bang, flashy, flashy, and then the Vervoids
It's
are
autumn!
exactly, it's autumn, and then the wind machine kicks up off camera and blows some leaves around the studio. The end.
Yeah.
So,
Cue the Kansas.
did you like the way that was resolved, or do you think it was a little convenient?
I mean, considering the Vervoids are essentially sentient plants, I mean, it makes logical sense.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as a fix is concerned,
Right.
But yeah, they're plants, and they go through the plant life cycle,
Okay.
and obviously they're annuals and not perennials. So,
So, did you like the Vervoids as a monster?
yeah,
Because I would kind of like to see them back again, only with better, obviously, costumes and effects.
yeah. It's like I said, I think they're a really good design,
Mm-hmm.
and the costumes, all things considering, are really highly detailed. But yeah, it would be interesting to see. I guess if the Vervoid or a
Right.
Vervoid could figure out how to live beyond the natural life cycle, what would happen?
Right.
So,
Well, I kind of wonder since presumably the body of Ruth Baxter survived, even though she didn't, her body is still there.
yeah,
That could have been used to maybe bring the Vervoids back if they wanted to.
yeah. Do a little Jurassic Park,
or
sciencey.
Yeah, reveal that some scientist got a hold of her corpse and started experimenting with it.
Yeah.
And brought the Vervoids back.
Gee, where have we seen that recently on Doctor?
I wonder, right?
The corpse of an evil killer species brought back.
Yeah, right? It's happened. It's happened. All right. Anything else about these characters or their Vervoids? Nah. All right. Fourth and final topic, then. The charge must now be genocide. I just kind of like the way the Valyard says that at the end.
Yeah.
Michael Jaston kicked ass with that line. Charge must now be genocide. Cliffhanger, smash zoom on the Doctor's face.
Yeah.
Credits.
Dun,
Yeah.
dun, dun.
Woo! Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about the Valyard, the Inquisitor in this one. We don't get as many trial scenes in this story.
Yeah.
I mean, they're kind of like interspersed here and there, but they're not as obtrusive as, say, they were in the first couple stories.
Yeah.
So what did you make of, this is the third segment, and we find essentially this is the Valyard who, after what we presume has been altering the Matrix, because the Doctor says, there's this moment of things like, well, the Doctor's holding this axe, making it, looking all maniacal, looking like he smashed up this radio room or the communications room. And the Doctor's like, I never did that. And the Inquisitor's like, well, it's in your future. How do you know?
How does he know Mel?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
How does he know there's going to be a murder on board?
Yeah, and he's all like, well, I did view the tape. It wasn't in the, the Matrix that I saw before. Mm-hmm. So, but the Valyard essentially plays his little, final card here, and essentially accuses the Doctor of genocide by getting rid of the Vervoids. Mm-hmm. So what did you make of the developments as far as the trial goes?
I mean, I'd like to think in universe that we don't see as much trial stuff.
Right.
Because at this point, the Doctor is the one presenting his side of the case. And knowing this Doctor, he thinks that the evidence will speak for itself and therefore just lets it play out. And that's what we see on screen. At least that's my headcanon.
Right. Well, I think that was the intention, but then once he sees that communications room, being manipulated, he's probably like, well, either we play this or like I have nothing. so I guess we better play
Yeah.
this and see what happens.
Yeah. But, the doctor has been so, so
So, Doctor,
adamant that he's he's been very doctor that that he's not guilty, that this whole thing is a farce.
he's made no qualms about showing his disdain for the proceedings.
Right. Yeah. And now this is post him at this point thinking that Perry is dead, and has presumably not got a significant amount of time to process and grieve.
But it seems like they gave him a little bit.
Because,
because they let him go.
Gone to a recess.
They seem to, because they seem to go. After the revelation of at the end of Mind Warp, it seemed like there was a gap in time. Pardon the pun.
Yeah.
That they allowed the Inquisitor allowed the Doctor to gather himself.
Yeah.
Emotionally a little bit, and then also to have time to kind of present a defense.
Yeah. But still, I mean, when you're talking about someone who's been your friend and your companion for so long, to see them presumably die and there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, there had to...
Oh, I'm sure.
The amount of time that he got, I'm sure, is not...
enough,
appropriate, is not enough.
Yeah, because remember how he was after Adric's death. So...
Yeah.
But at least it seemed like the Inquisitor was at least trying to give him some time to gather himself.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they actually acknowledged that in the beginning of the story.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still got to put on as the British do, and put on a stiff upper lip.
Yeah, exactly.
And carry on.
Keep calm and carry on. Yes.
Yes, exactly, as they do. He's trying to present his defense, and then the Valeyard is still doing what the Valeyard's been doing, and putting in his 2 cents wherever he sits,
kissing up to the Inquisitor, calling her sagacity, and
and then to decide that the Doctor now needs to be charged with genocide because he killed this species, which was obviously dangerous,
right?
Would have been extremely invasive if they had made it to Earth, as we saw with Professor Lasky. They can't be reasoned with. So the Doctor really didn't have a lot of choice.
It's a really interesting. And it's a logical thing that the Valeyard does here, because he's obviously trying to to essentially end the Doctor's life for reasons of his own that will come out in the next story. And here's this opportunity where the Doctor is essentially laid it out, okay, there weren't many of these Vervoids, and because of that, you've killed them all. Now, whether whatever the reason, they're still dead. You've essentially I think the way the Valeyard presents it is okay, these are these really rare pandas, space pandas, and you killed them. You killed all of them. So now there are no more space pandas. So essentially, you've exterminated an entire race. And the Doctor,
but they're not killer pandas.
They're not killer pandas, no. But
at least the pandas aren't killers that we know of.
Yeah. So. I mean, in the sense of is it the same? If you wiped out the piranha species,
right?
The piranhas are just doing what they do naturally. So maybe this is what the Vervoids do naturally. We don't know.
But they were...
It's an interesting
laboratory
argument.
Created, and therefore, are they really natural?
It's a good... Yeah, they're being the result of a science experiment. Yeah.
If you look at them as an actual living species, which they seem to carry the characteristics of what we would consider a living being,
right?
Then, but if you look at them as, something like... a tumor, with somebody with cancer, then you want to kill it.
Right.
get rid of it before it spreads and, it can't be stopped.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a very moral
Dilemma, really.
dilemma is what it is. It's a very double-edged sword type of thing. So
technically, I mean, if they are sentient creatures and not just like houseplants, it's not like he wiped. These were thinking creatures, so it's a very slippery slope on these arguments. But ultimately, as we find out, it doesn't really matter because all these charges of genocide ultimately just kind of get dropped, fall by the wayside after the events of next story. So there isn't really a resolution to this.
Yeah.
As it turns out. But it's almost kind of like the flip side of what the Daleks do. That whole argument, you would make a good Dalek because it's essentially the Doctor exterminating a race. So I'm sure Davros would have a lot of fun with this.
Oh, yeah.
Or the Master, who does eventually. Spoilers for next story. All right. Anything else about this story that we didn't cover?
No, I don't think so. Okay. I mean, this is the last of the building up,
right?
To go before we get into the big showdown, essentially.
Exactly.
Between the Doctor and the Valeyard and the ultimate foe, and each side has made their case, and now it's going to be the preliminary survival of the fittest, I guess.
Yeah, the preliminary bouts are over, and now it's time for the main event.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so favorite quotes. Do you have any favorite quotes?
It's not necessarily a quote.
Okay.
It's more of a moment when the Doctor and Mel are talking to the Commodore, I think.
Okay.
And trying to explain to him what's going on, and Mel says something like, "You've got a murderer on board, or killer on board, or something," and the Doctor just gives her this look, like looking from the Commodore to Mel, like, she said it,
Oh, you mean that kind of gesture where he kind of gestures toward Mel? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, she nail
there
on
it is. There it is.
On there, that's what we're looking at. So what do you want to do?
Yeah,
this is the trouble you found yourself in.
Yeah, I like that. I got a couple. Commodore Travers, talking about Mel to the Doctor, where he says, "How long have you known this woman?" And the Doctor replies, "Time is a comparative concept, Commodore." So I thought that was good. And the Doctor and Melanie talking, where the Doctor says, "You better leave me to cope with this." And Melanie's like, "You?" And the Doctor says, "This is a situation that requires tact and finesse. Fortunately, I am blessed with both."
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah. And then my last one, the Doctor with Commodore Travers again. The Doctor says, "Why is it none of you can see what's so glaringly obvious?" And Travers shoots back, "Well, maybe we lacked your divine insight." So, all right. So what's your rating for this story?
Like I said, this is not my favorite of the, trial clumps.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call them. I think I do like this one slightly better than the other two. Although I do like Mysterious Planet. But and Mind Warp is good too. That's so hard. Goodness. But
I guess I'm really putting you on the spot here. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. But I as much as it is a oft-repeated plot thing, the whole, murder mystery Agatha Christie thing is always kind of fun, especially when, you're watching it for the first time and you're like, ooh, who did it?
Yeah.
That's always fun to see if you can figure it out before they actually tell you. And this is still rewatchable even after you know who did it, is the thing. which is, I think, a good sign of it. I really like Pip and Jane Baker as writers. They are good at what they do.
You think they captured Colin's doctor the best?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I think they capture him and his personality, and even with the different companion, obviously Mark of the Ronnies with a Perry story, but they still get the doctor companion kind of relationship dynamic really well. So I think I'm going to give this 8.5 Demeter seeds.
Ooh. So even this is pretty high then. All right. Well, I'm a little under you on this one. I liked it better than Mind Warp. I like it about the same as The Mysterious Planet, so I'm going to give this one 7 out of 10 Screaming Mells.
That's a lot of screaming.
That's a lot of screaming. It was either that or compost piles of bodies. So I went with Screaming Mells. All right. So on to the ultimate foe next time. So reverse the polarity. We got a lot of fan mail to talk about, so I'm probably going to breeze through this one really quickly. So if you enjoyed Terror of the Vervoids, well, I was thinking, well, Agatha Christie, you automatically go with like Unicorn and the Wasp, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I tried to, I thought, well, that one's not really in outer space. So for reverse the polarity this time, we're going to reverse the polarity all the way forward to 2014 with Mummy on the Orient Express.
I thought maybe that was what you were going to go with.
Yeah, this is the 8th episode from Series 8, 2014, written by Jamie Matheson. And in this one, Clara Oswald is ready to go on one last hurrah as a companion. So the 12th Doctor takes her aboard a space train modeled on the Orient Express. And after witnessing a mummy that no other passenger could see attack a woman named Mrs. Pitt, the Doctor discovers her death and similar deaths on the train occurred exactly 66 seconds after lights flickered nearby, which brings up the legend of a supernatural being called the Foretold. And there's a bunch of scientists on this train, and the Doctor, he starts getting a little suspicious about this. And in the process, we find out that, oh, hey, there's this computer named Gus behind everything. And Gus is revealed that he gathered the scientists and the Doctor there to essentially reverse engineer whatever technology the Foretold uses. And so the Doctor and this chief engineer named Perkins deduce that the Foretold is draining energy from his victims using phase-shifting technology. And ultimately, the Doctor, in the process of figuring out who the next victim is going to be, the granddaughter of Mrs. Pitt named Maisie, the Doctor kind of quickly draws on her memories to trick the Foretold into targeting him instead. And in the 66 seconds that the Doctor has left, the Doctor successfully identifies the Foretold as a modified stealth soldier of a long-ago war and offers surrender to tell the Foretold that the war is over. And now that the Foretold, released from its duties, offers the Doctor a salute before it disappears into a pile of dust, leaving behind its phase-shifting device. So everybody gets saved that's still alive, that is. And later, the Doctor tells Clara that he tried hacking the computer named Gus to find out who brought the scientists onto the train, but Gus activated a self-destruct to keep the truth hidden. That's ominous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, Danny Pink, Clara's boyfriend, phones Clara to ask if she said goodbye to the Doctor, but after hanging up, Clara lies to the Doctor because, hey, Clara's really good at it, and says that, oh, Danny's totally cool with me traveling with you still.
Mm-hmm.
The end. Or is it?
Yeah.
Question mark.
Yeah.
So
That's a good one.
yeah, it is a good one. It's probably like I think that's my favorite, one of my favorites at least from series 8. I really like that one. I thought it was
I really like Clara's outfit in that.
yeah,
With the 20s flapper. Love it.
It's a really good look on her. She's Jenna Coleman. I don't know if you've ever seen this show Victoria, but she has a really good neck. I mean, well, you've probably seen her from playing like in The Snowmen, for example.
Yeah.
Or the
she's a tiny little strip of a thing. I've met her. So.
Yeah, I've met her too, and I know. So
she's just a tiny little thing. At first, when I met her, and I was, telling people later, and I'm like, she's so cute, little. I just want to stick her in my pocket and feed her peanuts like a pet squirrel or something.
I wonder who's tinier, her or Bonnie Langford. I think it's pretty
Probably
close.
Jenna.
Yeah, she is
would
pretty
be my guess.
tiny. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
because Jenna's short.
Right.
Yeah,
so
I think
Like
Bonnie's got a little on her height-wise. I think maybe a couple inches.
I've never met Bonnie, but I have met Jenna. So yeah. I can attest to that personally.
Yeah.
But she was very friendly with me. So when I got her autograph, so she liked the fact that I was wearing a 12th Doctor shirt. So
yeah.
I told her I was kind of disappointed that Clara wasn't on the shirt with Capaldi. So
yeah.
All right. Feedback this time. So we have not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 people writing in this time.
Oh my.
So lots of feedback, including, like I said, a very special feedback that we'll save for the end. So first, writing in about Terror of the Vervoids is everyone's favorite, Holly from Wisconsin. So Holly Mack writing in once again. Hey, Charles, Jesse, and Rachel. Well, Jesse's not here, so hopefully yours truly and Rachel will suffice. Holly.
Jesse, when he hears this later.
Exactly. Jesse, yeah, you're listening, right, Jesse? I'm just checking, make sure. A pop quiz. The Valeyard is showing no sympathy with the doctor, but having his turn in defending himself. Really got kind of a Murder on the Orient Express / Agatha Christie vibe in the beginning parts of this episode. Mel making sure the doctor is getting his exercise in and eating healthy had me chuckling. Mel, I'm pretty sure the doctor does enough running from danger to not worry about having to be put on a diet. Well, apparently he doesn't do enough running because he kind of need to lose a few.
Just more to cuddle.
Rachel likes her doctors chunky. Or a little meat on their bones.
Fluffy like a teddy bear.
Fluffy like a teddy bear. There you go.
Yep.
Mel does have a point about the Mayday message being sent from someone that the doctor knows. As for the message not being signed, that person doesn't want the doctor to know who sent it, and the suspects are very few in that regard. Doctor, your feeling of being used isn't too far off base. Guessing those plants aren't plants after all. Maybe some relation to Audrey 2?
Yeah.
From A Little Shop of Horrors, I see what you did
Feed
there.
me, Seymour!
Yeah. Feed me! Yeah. Near the end of the story, at least the doctor heard the recording of the Vervoids plan and knew that Mel was in trouble. I'm thinking the doctor needs to come up with some companion panic buttons that alerts his sonic screwdriver that a companion needs help. Right?
Except this doctor doesn't carry a sonic.
This doctor doesn't, unless he uses his sonic lance.
Yeah, but he doesn't carry that one around on a regular basis like
he
the
doesn't.
Other doctors around the sonic screwdriver. So how would that work? But yeah, the companions all need something like Life Alert.
Yeah. You would think the doctor could at least have an app or something that the companions could use these days. But no.
And I can't get up.
Yeah, exactly. You need your Doctor in Distress app.
Yeah.
Doctor in distress. We're all sending him our SOS.
Yep.
All in all, a decent episode with the final wrap-up to be played out in the next episode. I'll wrap it up here. Holly from Wisconsin. Thank you, Holly. Always a delight to hear from Holly. All right. Also writing in, once again, David K. Proctor writing in about Terror of the Vervoids. Howdy do in the TARDIS, David writes. Dave, I hope all is well. The first thing I must say is when you are trying to make a show or movie on a play or a play, you want to stay on budget, figure out how to limit the sets. Spaceship or Earthship or whatever, but something that can be made of random stuff. There's a bridge that looks like a desk on a big television, and there is nothing else that suggests a ship here. A cruise ship has a distinctive look with narrow halls and bulkheads that add structural stability by having to duck and step over the hatchways. Nothing like that was seen. There was a Star Trek episode in the original series where there's a plant that is clearly a puppet that is just a glove with petals and leaves. That was more convincing than the Vervoids. Ooh, snap. That being said, I like the idea of plants as intelligent beings that interact with humanoids. However, there are variations in any plants. No two trees, even of the same species, have the same number of limbs in the same layout. I know that Doctor Who is famous for poor special effects, but perhaps a fake limb or no symmetrical non-humanoid shapes. Well, I guess they already used that fake limb in The Mark of the Rani, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that poor guy that got turned into a tree.
Yep.
The story is somewhat weak and has been done to death. I honestly got bored pretty quickly. The trial was again the best part. Well, that doesn't say much considering the trial wasn't much in the story. I give the story 4.5 ambulatory salads. Please pass the vinaigrette. Stay healthy, David K. Proctor. Well, at least I'm sure Mel would approve of your eating choices. How's that?
Yep.
So thank you, Dave. Appreciate the thoughts. Sorry I didn't like this one, but maybe you'll like the next one a little better. I know I did. All right. Third coming in this week, the return of Jeff Hilke, who is relatively new here to Next Stop Everywhere. But it's always great to have him right back in again. So Jeff writes in, hello, everyone. As I type this from St. Charles, Missouri, it is a balmy 1 degree.
Ooh.
Yeah, we feel you here in Ohio, Jeff. This is definitely my favorite story out of the 3 so far. So I obviously liked it a little bit more than Dave. It's a bit of the Sixth Doctor in the Philip Hinchcliffe era. Oh, because of Talons of Wang Chiang. I see what you did there. I'm not a huge fan of Mel, but I liked her in this story. The solution at the end was a bit of a deus ex machina, but I'm fine with it. While I can hear the Fifth Doctor say there had to have been another way, I do think the Doctor was justified. In Star Trek, they probably would have just dropped the Vervoids off on a vegetative planet, but this ending, whatever you think of it, fits Colin's Doctor perfectly. On a side note, have you ever thought about doing a rankings episode? I would love to hear your rankings on either the 13 official Doctors based on your personal favorites, or if it would be easier, your ranking of all 12 new Who series thus far. Till next time, have a great week, Jeff. So thank you, Jeff. We haven't done a rankings episode because as far as like ranking the Doctors, I like them all. So
Yeah.
And
for different reasons.
And I, even though I have my personal favorite, my Doctor, I know, I don't want to insult somebody by ranking Doctors higher than the others. I know Colin Baker has been the victim of that kind of thing in Doctor Who magazine. So much so he got really upset about it because he would always be voted last in these polls. So
he's first in my book.
I know he is, and that's cool. So we don't want to offend anybody that might like a particular Doctor more than another. So
yeah, I don't like rankings in general, just because it's so subjective.
Yeah, and I guess it's just we're trying to be a little diplomatic here. So
yeah,
we and like I said, I like all the Doctors equally. So I think they're all awesome in their own way. So some I like more than others, but they're still all great. I will watch every episode with them. So with maybe the exception of Love and Monsters. Okay, but Anyway, that's neither here nor there. All
Hey,
right.
at least the Monsters just got a good soundtrack in it.
This is
If
true.
you
It
like
does.
ELO.
It does have a great ELO soundtrack. I will grant you that. Yes, it does. I totally agree with that. All right. Definitely satisfies the classic rock fan that I am. All right. Last, but definitely not least, a certain person that you may be familiar with by the name of, let me check my notes here, Jesse Jackson. Sounds a little familiar. All right. So Jesse writes in, "Hi, Charles and Rachel." Well, hi, Jesse. How are you? Hope you're staying warm and staying safe with your wife, Linda, out there. Because and hopefully you get some more intelligent leaders of your state at some point.
Yeah.
Rather quickly. Let's just put it that way. So Jesse writes in, "We are fighting Winterpalooza 2021 here in Texas. So I don't think I will be out of work in time to record tonight." And as it turns out, no, he wasn't. "We have had rolling power outages all over the state, so many of my team, even though they are working from home, they have no power, water, or internet." So apologies, that you have to go through this. Like I said, because of the idiocy of your duly elected representatives, but
Yeah.
all of our thoughts are with
Like-
you guys.
Yeah, like internet, you could learn to deal with for maybe a day or two, but
Right.
you definitely need power and water.
Power and water definitely helps, yes, especially if you're elderly, for example. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, thoughts on the episode. This is a great example of the kind of doctor Colin could have been if he had had better writers. This is a very old-fashioned mystery. It gives him a chance to show his deductive skills, even at one point showing the audience, in parentheses he puts, those watching on TV and at the trial, how he was able to determine that one of the Mogarians was an imposter. Very Ellery Queen-like. It is very timey-wimey that this is an adventure that the doctor has not had yet, but he's using it as a defense. A little confusing, but hey, it's Doctor Who, so go with it. Yeah, it's just a little wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, no big deal, right? Like I said, would have fit right in with the Stephen Moffat era.
Mm-hmm.
Jesse says, "I like Mel. It is sad that she doesn't really get a true origin story." And Jesse adds, "Here's where Charles will add that we do get Mel's story in a Big Finish story." So, yeah, there is a Big Finish audio adventure for that. I think it's the wrong Doctors, if I'm not mistaken. She could have been a good companion to the Sixth Doctor, but we know that she does become a very good companion of the Seventh. And we just recently watched her goodbye episode. He's referring to Dragonfire, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The Vervoids reminded me of Audrey from Little Shop of Horrors. Well, that seems to be a thing here. Go figure. While I technically understand the Time Lord's issue with genocide in this case, I have the Doctor's back. Well, Rachel will definitely be happy with that. Overall, a great cast, lots of fun dynamics between the passengers and crew, just a very nice Doctor Who adventure. I give it 8 out of 10 exercise bikes. Keep hope alive, Jesse. So thank you, Jesse, and hopefully you'll be here with us next week, power willing, I guess.
Yes.
Fingers crossed for Texas. All right.
Yeah.
So, Jesse, obviously, like I said, all our thoughts are with you, and I'm sure I'm not alone in that regard. All right.
Yeah.
So, everybody, thank you guys for writing in. It was great to have all this feedback. So, if you want to be like Holly, Dave, Jeff, and that Jesse guy, whoever he is, write to us at nextstopeverywhere.smg@gmail.com. That's nextstopeverywhere.smg@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter at nextstopsmg on Twitter. Facebook, Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who Podcast, or Instagram at Next Stop Everywhere Podcast. And Rachel, where can they find you and listen to all your wonderful podcast endeavors?
Oh my. Well, you can always find me with the 5-ish Fangirls podcast. We are a weekly fandom pop culture entertainment podcast where we talk about books, movies, and video games, all things geeky and nerdy from the female perspective. We can be found pretty much wherever you find podcasts. And if you want to connect with us in other ways, you can go to the5ishfangirls.com where you can find links to all of the show's social media links along with all of our personal ones as well. And then every other week you can find me with Gold Standard, the Oscars podcast, where we are chronologically watching and reviewing every single Best Picture winner for the Academy Awards, starting with the 1920s, 1927, and working our way through year by year. We are smack dab in the middle of the 1940s right now, with getting into the post-World War II era, and hopefully soon color movies. I'm getting real sick of black and white.
You can't handle the monochrome? Nope.
It's getting a little blah. As someone who really enjoys like set design and costumes and stuff, not being able to see that stuff in color just,
frustrates you.
It's frustrating. So I'm ready to get to some color.
Well, they can't all be Gone with the Wind at this stage, or The Wizard of Oz. So yeah. Well, you'll be out of that soon, I'm sure, because don't worry, the 50s are coming. Stay tuned. All right, so everybody, please, check out Rachel on Five-ish Fangirls and Gold Standard. I may be a little biased since I've been on both shows, but you definitely want to check them out. Highly recommended. All right, as for me, of course, you can find me at Charles Skaggs on Twitter, at Charles Skaggs on Instagram, Facebook, Charles Skaggs in Hilliard, Ohio. I'd love to hear from you, like and follow you and all that jazz, so do the same with me. And you can also find me on my blog of geeky things.
Damn good coffee. And hot.
Damn good coffee and hot, where I talk about all the stuff we talk about here on Next Stop Everywhere. So Doctor Who, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Big Finish Audios, and more, and also all kinds of comic book, sci-fi news by other podcasts for the Southgate Media Group, including the Fandom Zone podcast that I'm doing with Jesse, at least when I don't screw up our schedule, and DJ Nick, where right now we're going through WandaVision, the Disney Plus series, the Marvel Cinematic Universe series, which has just been insane.
Oh my God, it's so good.
So good. Just when I think, the quality's going to drop off because we had like 2 great episodes or 3 great episodes in a row, the show just keeps hitting home run after home run after home run. Yeah. And, you really should do yourselves a favor, check it out. And then, come check out our podcast on the Phantom Zone where we guys discuss it.
Are you guys going to be doing Falcon and Winter Soldier after WandaVision ends?
Yes, we are. That's our plan. So
sweet.
Yes, yep. So if you're not sick of us by now, don't worry. We're going to be back for more Marvel Disney Plus goodness. Yep, that's the plan. Also, Ghost with the Twin Peaks podcast I do with Zan Sprouse, where we talk all things Twin Peaks, David Lynch. And we just recently finished our review of the David Lynch film Lost Highway. And then coming up next, we are going to be discussing, and this is going to be a really interesting one, I think, David Lynch's G-rated film that he did for Disney. Yes, David Lynch did a G-rated film for Disney called The Straight Story. And it's kind of like a biographical movie. Neither Zan nor I have seen this movie before.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus if you want to check it out.
Really?
It's on Disney Plus, so look up The Straight Story.
Huh.
You can search it by either Straight Story or look for David Lynch, and you'll find it. So everybody, if you're interested, check that out, because like I said, it's on Disney Plus. That's how I found it. And watch it, and then check us out on Ghostwood as we discuss a movie that neither Zan nor I have seen before. So this should be quite an interesting episode. We haven't done anything like this yet, so should be fun. And just, if you've ever kind of wondered what a G-rated David Lynch film would look like, well, I guess we're about to find out. So come along with us for the ride, and we'll all have a great time. And then also Drunk Cinema, that I also do with Zan, where we discuss movies that we like. We have adult beverages, adult conversation, and just have a ball as we watch these movies together. And if you want to join us, we hope you do, because we talk some great movies. We talk like 1989 Batman, Ferris Bueller, Die Hard, Young Frankenstein, The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. And then coming up next, our big film that we're coming up for our 6th episode, we're going to be discussing Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan on Drunk Cinema. So if you're a Star Trek fan, you definitely want to check us out for this.
Ricardo Montalban's abs.
Yes, the big, the Corinthian leather abs of Ricardo Montalban. And with Hell's Heart, I stabbeth thee. And you're going to have a lot of fun, especially when Shatner does his whole Khan thing. So, Khan! So I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun with that. So hope you have fun enjoying the episode and watching the movie right along with us on Drunk Cinema. Okay. That was a lot, right? Rachel, thank you again. I mean, I know, Jesse was out, so you just had to put up with my nonsense this week. But thank you for doing so. We appreciate your sacrifice.
Anytime.
And just wonderful, a delight to talk Colin Baker with you once again.
Yep. All you gotta do is say the magic words.
Well, I'm going to say the magic words one more time at least, as we're going to discuss here next time on Next Stop Everywhere, episode 220, The Ultimate Foe, at long last, with, you guessed it, Rachel Frend. Maybe you've heard of her. And Rachel, I hope you had a good time, and
I did.
I hope you're looking forward to coming back next time as we finally wrap up the Trial of the Time Lord, as we close out Trial of the Time Lord month here on Next Stop Everywhere with the Ultimate Foe, Rachel Frend, hopefully the return of Jesse Jackson, power willing, and everybody, keep Jesse in your thoughts, keep everybody in the state of Texas in your thoughts, and then come on back next time right here on Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast. Goodbye, everybody.